Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this is a quick preview and prediction for Gervonta Tank Davis versus Isaac Pitbull Cruz. This fight goes down on the 5th of December, takes place at lightweight, and Tank Davis's regular WBA title is on the line. The fight takes place at the Staples Center in LA. Now, what do I make of this fight? First and foremost, obviously, as we know, the original opponent was supposed to be Rolando Romero. That fight fell through due to obvious reasons, and Isaac Cruz is the replacement. I have to say, I actually do believe Isaac Cruz is a better lightweight than Rolando Romero. I think he's got a bit more about him, to be honest. I think he's fought better competition as well. And all in all, I just think he's a better fighter than Rolando Romero. So in that sense, I think Isaac Cruz is a good replacement. But the problem with this fight is that it's on pay-per-view in the USA. I'm not sure where this is going to be televised in the UK, but in the USA it's pay-per-view, and as far as I'm concerned, this really isn't a good pay-per-view worthy fight. I know I don't have to pay USA pay-per-view prices, but nevertheless, I don't think it's a good thing for boxing when a fight like this is put behind a paywall. It doesn't really help the growth of boxing or anything like that. Really, this fight should be on regular Showtime, and it would, in my opinion at least, it would be perfectly acceptable. But yeah, all in all, as far as the fight goes itself, I don't hate it. I think stylistically, it will definitely be fun for as long as it lasts. And, you know, Isaac Cruz is not terrible, so it's not the worst fight in the world, but should it be pay-per-view? Probably not. Anyway, let's briefly break down the tale of the tape. We shall start with Gervonta Davis, who is the big favourite in this bout. Gervonta Davis has a very impressive record of 25-0, 24 of his 25 wins coming by way of knockout. Isaac Cruz has a record of 22 wins, 1 defeat, 1 draw, 15 of his 22 wins coming by way of knockout. Gervonta Davis is listed as 5'5.5", with a 67.5-inch reach, whereas Isaac Cruz is listed as 5'4", with a 63-inch reach. So Tank Davis is 1.5 inches taller, and he also has a 4.5-inch reach advantage, which is quite unusual for Tank Davis considering that he's only 5'5.5" himself. Usually he's the smaller man in terms of height and reach, but in this one, he is bigger. Gervonta Davis is a southpaw, whereas Isaac Cruz is an orthodox fighter. Gervonta Davis is 27 years old, whereas Isaac Cruz is 23 years old. Now the tale of the tape is out of the way, let's briefly break down what I believe each guy should do in this fight to win, and at the end I will make my official prediction. I guess I'll start with the underdog, Isaac Cruz. To me, Isaac Cruz in this fight is really up against it. He is a huge underdog, no doubt about it. But he needs to make the most of what he can do and what he does do. And what he does do, he is a relentless pressure fighter. That's his style. He likes to come forwards, throw a lot of punches, work the body, and really try and drag you into a bit of a war. And that is all well and good. But going into this fight, Isaac Cruz really needs to tighten up defensively. He needs much more of a tight guard in this bout, because so far in Isaac Cruz's career he does try to keep his hands high, but his guard is very wide. When he's holding his hands up, his arms are quite far apart, if that makes sense. And when you're fighting a guy like Tank Davis, who has a tremendous uppercut, that uppercut can basically go through the middle of a guard and catch you on the chin. In this fight, Isaac Cruz needs to be a lot more compact with his guard. His arms need to be nice and tight together. I think he needs to be fighting in a crouch. And he needs to make himself as hard to hit as possible while fighting an aggressive fight. Another thing with Isaac Cruz I've noticed in many of his previous fights, he throws real wild haymakers, real wide punches. He'll kind of apply pressure. He'll get you stationary, whether that be on the ropes or in the corner, and then he'll square up and really open up with wide, looping haymakers. He needs to keep his punches a lot tighter in this fight, keep his hooks a lot shorter, mix some uppercuts up the middle, be nice and compact in style. The punch technique needs to be a lot crisper, a lot tighter, because from what I've seen in his previous fights, I think his punch technique in those fights could get him in a lot of trouble against Tank Davis. So for me, he needs to be tightening up his shots, shortening up his shots, and applying pressure behind a nice tight guard, and ideally some sort of jab coming forwards. I think also a good idea for Isaac Cruz in this fight would be to try and stay on Tank Davis's chest, not stay at mid-range or stay at three-quarters range. I think Isaac needs to be, if he's up close in this fight, he needs to be right on Tank's chest to try and smother Tank's work. Tank can still throw an uppercut in those scenarios, but what I've noticed about Tank Davis, he likes a bit of space to throw the uppercut, to land the uppercut. He likes to kind of time you coming in, he'll take a step back and come through the middle with the uppercut. If you're on his chest and really laying on him, he can't get quite as much leverage in that shot. I think if you stay on Tank's chest and really smother him, you might be able to reduce his punching power and potentially outwork him. That's one thing we do know about Tank Davis. We have seen him outworked in certain rounds of certain fights, like Pedraza, like Nario Barrios, like Leo Santa Cruz. These guys all won rounds against Tank Davis merely by throwing a few punches, not doing anything special. So I think Isaac needs to be aware of that and try and, at times, just stick on Tank Davis's chest and really rough him up. Another thing I would say with Isaac Cruz, if he's pressuring and he's got an opportunity where he can throw a few punches, but he's not on Tank Davis's chest, he needs to make sure not to overstay his welcome. So, for example, let's say he has Tank Davis on the ropes and he wants to give himself a bit of space to land some combinations. Land a 2 or 3 punch combination and then get out. Don't stay there too long, because Tank is really good, in my opinion at least, at timing you in between your punches, particularly if he's got space. So if Isaac is throwing combinations when Tank has space, make sure that it's no more than a 3-punch combination or something like that. Have a 3-punch rule where you throw a 3-punch combination, and if you get to that point, get out. Because if you stay too long, you're going to get caught and potentially get hurt. Ultimately, Isaac Cruz in this fight, he needs to fight his game. He's never going to be a technical boxer. He's never going to be boxing back foot on the jab. He comes forwards, he throws punches, he maintains a good work rate, and he'll try and grind you down. But he needs to do that with much more intelligence going into this fight, because, Tank, as we know, say what you want about him, but he does hit pretty fucking hard. And one mistake potentially could result in you losing the fight. So yeah, Isaac just needs to be him, but a lot more polished, a lot more defensively sound and a lot more cerebral in his approach. And ideally, try and work that body as well, try and drain Tank's power that way, try and reduce the power that way, reduce Tank's work rate, reduce his foot movement, and basically, do your thing really, apply pressure, just be smart about it. As for Tank Davis, given what type of fighter Isaac Cruz is, and given what type of fighter Tank Davis is, I don't really think it's rocket science to see how Tank Davis wins this fight, or what he needs to do in this fight to win. Ultimately, for me in this fight, Tank Davis just needs to rely on his hand speed, his counter-punching, and maintain a cool head, because if you do that against a guy like Isaac Cruz, the opportunities for counter-punches will be there, and they'll be there every single round, given what type of fighter Isaac Cruz is. For example, I think Isaac Cruz could be very susceptible to the southpaw right hook. That's a shot that, in my opinion, Tank Davis doesn't throw anywhere near enough. When I've seen him throw that shot, especially even when he leads with it, it's quite a powerful punch, and I think that's a great way to domesticate the aggressive fighter in Isaac Cruz, to try and walk him into that southpaw right hook, the lead right hook. That shot is going to be there for him. Isaac Cruz at times doesn't have the best defense, doesn't have the best guard. I could easily see Tank punching around Isaac's guard and walking him into that shot. Another thing I want to see from Tank in this fight is some setup and trap setting. I want to see Tank Davis in this fight utilise that jab. One thing about Tank is he's not much of a jabber. He's not consistent with the jab. Yeah, he does like to prod and probe with it to set up a big power punch, which is great, but I want to see him utilise a ramrod jab in this fight to really try and keep Isaac Cruz at arm's length. There's not many times where Tank Davis is the taller and longer fighter. This fight he is, so I want to see Tank utilise that jab, maintain distance, and from there, once Tank's established his jab, that's when I want to see Tank start to feint with it, start to pull with it, then maybe feint with a jab, take a half step back, and then land the uppercut as Isaac Cruz walks in. Isaac Cruz comes in straight lines, doesn't really move his head, and he'll keep his head over his front foot, so he's open for the uppercut. And given what I said about his guard in his previous fights, his arms are quite far apart, so the uppercut is going to penetrate. So I want to see Tank set up those sort of traps in this fight. I think he's capable of it. I think he's got the athleticism. I think he's got the speed. I think he's got the power. But it's just maintaining a cool head against the pressure fighter in Isaac Cruz. I want to see a more polished boxing display from Tank Davis. I've been watching Tank Davis for a number of years now, and I've always seen Tank Davis as a very gifted, offensively raw talent. Offensively, he can be very good. He's got great hand speed, explosiveness, great power. He's really good in that sense, but sometimes the technical side, I think he lacks on. I want to see more of that in this fight. I want to see the jab. I want to see a bit more of a setup game. I want to see a little more attention to defense, But yeah, ultimately, Tank's got the tools to win this fight. He's got the power. He's got the hand speed. I think he's got the athleticism. He's got the size. He's got the experience. He should win this fight, but I'm expecting Tank to really make a show of it and ultimately score a devastating knockout in this one. But yeah, ultimately my prediction in this fight is Tank Davis by knockout, and I believe he'll secure the knockout in the middle rounds, anything from round 5 to 7, something like that. And, cliche and not very imaginative, but I believe the uppercut more than likely will be the punch to do it. Maybe the right hook, but maybe an uppercut right hook combination or a lead uppercut as he draws Isaac Cruz in, something like that. But yeah, I've got Tank Davis winning this fight by knockout. I think Isaac Cruz will have success. He will find the target. Tank can get hit. Tank's feet aren't the quickest, and his footwork isn't the greatest. And sometimes he invites a bit of pressure on where he can get caught. We saw that against Leo Santa Cruz, for example, but I think he's just going to have too much firepower in this fight. So I've got Tank Davis by mid-round knockout. What about you guys? Share your thoughts below. Peace.